My name is Amina A, and I am a business major at the University of Washington, Tacoma. The objective of this assignment for me was to find somebody who could help me better understand how to navigate myself in the future in terms of career and even now in my college life. So I chose Ifra Muhammad. Why did I choose Ifra? Ifra shared much of the same background as me. She was a first generation college student, or a student in general. She also came from an immigrant background. She was a woman, she was black, she was Muslim, she was perfect. So I asked her, I said, Ifra, what do you do now? Do you like what you do? Did you see yourself doing this? And she said that she was a research coordinator at the University of Washington, but that's not what she majored in. There was no research coordinator degree. She actually majored in psychology, but that's not what she wanted to major in either. She wanted to start off with microbiology, but that's not the only thing. She also wanted to do English. Her story kept sounding so relatable and so similar because I've shifted major multiple times, and she told me that that wasn't a foreign concept. It was actually pretty common. I met Ifra at a community event years ago where I found out that she was a mentor for high school students in a scholarship program. She basically was helping them navigate and better understand how the college experience would be, my experience. And I asked her why she was working with kids, and she mentioned that when she had come to America, she was 9 years old. It was the month of March, so the middle of this, almost the end of the school quarter, the school year, and she didn't know the language. She didn't understand the system. She didn't know anything. It was, to quote her, like building a plane as it's taking off. And a lot of the kids, she said, me, myself, and children that she helped mentor could relate to that because that's exactly how we feel. When we come into these school doors and have to figure out how to, talk to advisors, what classes to sign up for, what avenues to go through, and find out what resources are available to us. We're doing this all ourselves. So we're building that plane as it's taking off, literally. And she wanted to be able to help them. So I asked her, I said, so you're kind of like a mentor and you're a research coordinator. Seems like you're very teaching, academic oriented. Is that what you wanted to major in? And she said that English was actually a very, very big part of her college life, and she was actually considering it until she had met a professor. She had asked the professor for some advice, and she said English is my passion, right? She'd already went through so many different majors, but English is her real passion. She was seriously considering taking it as a major, and he'd said, well, I mean, if you want to take it as a passion, keep it as a passion. It's not going to pay. And to her, education, and to me, not just her, education was the key that would take us out of poverty and put us into a better life. And I'm quoting her when I say that. So she took that advice. It resonated with her. And I mentioned the noise that we had learned about in class. I asked her if she's seen that noise as negative or positive. She said she's seen it as positive because it helped direct her to the path that she's in now. It helped her realize, because just because she didn't major in English doesn't mean it's not a part of her everyday life. She says she writes more so now than she probably did then. Maybe it's not for creative purposes, but she still utilizes those skills. And she had introduced me to the concept of transferable skills. Transferable skills are skills you can develop and use in any line of work. And she says why that's so important is, like I said, just because she didn't major in English didn't mean she didn't use it all the time. For me, I've always thought that we major in this thing, we specialize this one piece of knowledge or skill, and we're going to utilize that. But in reality, I can have multiple skills and use them in multiple different ways for any line of work, honestly. So that was pretty mind-blowing for me. I asked her that besides her skills and her personal experiences, what else helped her? And she said her social capital was key in propelling her career. She said that often, almost all of the different jobs that she had, she got them through referrals or recommendations, but just because it helped her put her foot in the door didn't mean it got her a seat at the table. So she still had to utilize those skills and use them, but they really helped place her. Interestingly enough though, Ifra is now social capital for me, right? Because what she had done is, in order for those people to have recommended or referred her to these jobs, they had to have known of her skills. They had to be aware of her knowledge, her background. And that was her sharing that information, asking for help, going out there. And that's not something that I'm familiar with. That's not something I think many kids with my background are very familiar with. We're so used to navigating through this by ourselves. We go through elementary, high school, middle school by ourselves, not in that order, but in that order, by ourselves. There's no parents to tell you what to do. You tell your parents what's being done. So you come through the door and it's just a zigzaggy mess. So we're not used to asking for help, and we don't really utilize a lot of the resources. But after talking to her and hearing that, I realized that not only is asking for help not something to be ashamed of, it's actually something you should be excited and proud about, because hey, social capital, right? These people can open my eyes to resources or mentorships, anything that could just propel me forward in my career or any future endeavor. We then moved on to talking about her career, the workplace, what's it like, and I just got curious because, she's a visibly Black Muslim female. Has that had any influence or effect in her workplace? And she actually mentioned a recent experience in which someone had refused to work with her because of her Muslim background. Like specifically, that's it, because of her Muslim background. And it had that devastated her. She had to take a moment to herself, but a supervisor there had taken a hold of the situation and put practices and policies in place to, prevent that in the future and work around it, because ideally we're supposed to have a respectful, understanding environment for all of us, right? But I think that, to me, honestly, the lesson in that for her and for me was that this is our reality, right? Based off the social climate that we are currently in. And it's just something that's good to keep in mind. And when she had told me that, it was almost comforting, I guess, in a way, to know that this is a reality, because again, this had been much later in her career. And that's not to say she hadn't faced discrimination before, but this was, as she said, to quote her, the most explicit form of discrimination that she's faced in her work life. And the fact that this has happened to someone that I know, and that it just brought that reality closer to home. And I think the best thing is to keep it in mind, just to know that it's a possibility, right? So to wrap it up, honestly, all in all, what I've really learned from my interview with Ifra is to honestly ask questions, right? Ask for help. Be eager to ask for help, because that's how we build our social capital. And prepare for the worst, or prepare for various different outcomes, because life isn't gonna go the way you plan, that's for sure. But luckily, with people like Ifra and others in our lives, I have the luxury now of choosing what mistakes or lessons I don't really have to learn, because they've already done it for me. Really important is to be flexible and adapt to changes as they come, because they'll come. That's the summary of my interview, and I hope it was as beneficial to you as it was to me.